All right, so get this. Today we are going deep into quantum computing stocks.
Yeah.
And, specifically IonQ and Rigetti Computing. You guys sent us a really interesting analysis from the Motley Fool, and it compares these two companies. And get this, it was just published yesterday, December 10th, 2024.
Oh, yeah. Talk about fresh analysis, right? It's a really good time to be looking into quantum computing. It's like it's on the verge of exploding. We could be talking about a market that grows from like $1 billion today to like $12.6 billion by 2032.
Wow. That is wild. Like, that's the kind of growth that you dream of as an investor.
Absolutely.
Right? And both of these companies, IonQ and Rigetti, they're like IonQ. They're really trying to position themselves as major players. Here's the thing, though. Both of their stocks have been just on fire this year. Like, IonQ is up over 200%, and Rigetti, an unbelievable 344%. I mean, with those gains already in there, is there even any more room to grow? And if so, like, which one is the better bet?
Yeah, that's the big question. And that's what we're here to unpack today, right? So I guess maybe we should start with the basics. Like, head to head, who's bringing in more revenue? And how are they growing? Well, IonQ, they seem to have a lot of momentum going for them right now. Their revenue more than doubled year over year, and it hit $12.4 million in the third quarter of this year.
Okay.
Oh?
That is impressive, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the numbers.
Right.
They also got that huge contract, $54.5 million contract with the U.S. Air Force Research Lab. I mean, that's got to say something about, how confident people are in their technology.
For sure. That kind of government backing is a big deal. It can be a major catalyst for growth. Now, Rigetti, their revenue is more modest in comparison. They had $2.4 million in the same quarter, but they're making moves too. They're present at the UK's National Quantum Computing Center, and that signals, I think, a commitment to, research and development.
Interesting. So they're maybe playing a little bit of a longer game, really focusing on building like a strong foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of get the revenue picture. I got to be honest with you, though. When I hear people talking about, trapped ions, superconducting qubits, it all starts to sound a little bit like science fiction. Can we maybe break that down a little? What's the difference? And why does it even matter as a potential investor?
Yeah, sure. So all of this comes down to like the tech, the tech behind their quantum computers. So IonQ uses something like trapped ion technology, and it basically utilizes individual atoms. They're held in place by electric fields.
So they're really working at like an atomic level.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. The benefit of this is you get really, really good stability and strong connectivity between the qubits.
Okay.
It's almost like, imagine a well-rehearsed orchestra, right? Every instrument's in tune, playing together in perfect harmony.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so IonQ is all about precision and accuracy then. What about Rigetti? Those super fast, superconducting qubits?
Yeah. Think of those as like the Formula One race cars of quantum computing. They are incredibly fast. They boast gate speeds 10,000 times faster than trapped ion systems. The trade-off, though, is that they can be, a little bit more prone to errors.
Interesting. So IonQ is betting on stability and accuracy, and Rigetti is all about pushing the boundaries of speed. Makes you wonder which one is going to win out, huh?
It really does. And it's really too early to say who's going to be the winner. Both companies are making some really, strategic moves.
Yeah, speaking of strategic moves, IonQ has been really busy. They just acquired Qubitekk. That's a quantum networking company. And they've partnered with AstraZeneca for drug discovery. And ANSYS, which is, huge in the computer-aided engineering industry.
They're really going for it, trying to, integrate into a bunch of different sectors.
Now they get Rigetti. They're not standing still either. They're putting a lot of money into, advancing their core technology. And they're set to release a new modular system architecture in 2025.
Yeah, they are. And, they're aiming for really, really high fidelity in their quantum processing units with that. And let's not forget, they have their own chip manufacturing facility, Fab 1. It gives them a lot of control over, their supply chain and development.
Yeah, that's a really big advantage in a field that's changing so fast.
Absolutely.
Okay, so both companies have their strengths for sure.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we got to look at the financials, right? How are they doing when it comes to, the bottom line?
Right. Well, neither company is profitable just yet. which, is pretty common for companies that are at the forefront of emerging technology. They're both burning through cash pretty quickly to, fuel their research and development. But, when we look at their cash positions, IonQ definitely has the advantage. They have almost $383 million in cash and investments.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Rigetti?
They have around $92.6 million. Which is a lot less than IonQ, but, their losses are smaller. It seems like they're managing their burn rate more carefully.
Interesting. So Rigetti's being more, like, fiscally conservative.
Yeah.
Even though they have less to work with. But, I mean, we got to be honest here. The valuations in this sector are crazy high, right?
Yeah, they are. Investor enthusiasm, it's really baked into those price-to-sales ratios. Like, IonQ trades at over 200 times its trailing sales. That means their stock price is 200 times higher than the revenue they brought in over the past year.
Wow.
Yeah. Rigetti is at 60 times sales, which is still pretty high.
So there's like a lot of like future potential baked into these prices. Like investors are really betting on these companies long term, even though, they're not profitable yet.
Yeah. And it's not just, like regular people who are bullish on this. Major institutions like Vanguard and BlackRock have been increasing their positions in both of these companies, too.
So the smart money's moving in.
Yeah. It seemed like they're saying, we think quantum computing is going to be a game changer. We're placing our bets now.
But with those high valuations, I mean, there's a lot of room for things to go wrong, too, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's still an emerging technology. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of risk.
Okay. So we've talked about revenue, technology, partnerships, financials. But before we go even deeper into like the technology and stuff, I think it's good to take a step back. Look at the bigger picture here.
I agree. It's important to understand the whole context. Like, what's the competition like? What are the ethical implications? What are the risks and rewards? For investing in a revolutionary new technology like this,
Yeah.
It's like we've been looking at the specs of these two high-performance cars, but now it's time to take them for a test drive. Really understanding trapped ions and superconducting qubits, what they mean for the future. It's really key for anyone who wants to, put their money down on this.
For sure. All right, so let's get under the hood. IonQ and their trapped ion technology. It's kind of amazing. They're using individual atoms as qubits, held in place by electric fields. I mean, it's like straight out of Star Trek.
It really is pretty mind-blowing stuff. And when you think about it from an investor's perspective, there are some really cool advantages to this approach. Like, trapped ions are incredibly stable. And because they're using, nature's building blocks, the qubits are inherently identical. So you get this really high fidelity, meaning the operations are very accurate.
So it's a quantum computer that's really precise and reliable.
Exactly.
Sounds pretty good. What's the catch?
Scalability. It's the big challenge. Building systems with thousands or even millions of qubits, which you will need to, solve those really complex problems. It's a major hurdle. It's like trying to build a skyscraper with tiny, delicate pieces. It's tough to get everything working together perfectly.
Right. Okay, so if IonQ is having these scaling challenges, does that give Rigetti like an edge with their superconducting qubits?
Yeah, potentially. I mean,
right.
Superconducting qubits, they're built using techniques that are similar to like the semiconductor industry, which could give them an advantage when it comes to scaling up. Plus, they're super fast. We're talking 10,000 times faster than trapped ion systems.
You did say earlier that they're more prone to errors. That's a pretty big drawback.
Yeah. Accuracy is the trade-off here. They're more susceptible to noise and errors, and they have shorter coherence times, meaning the amount of time they can hold information compared to trapped ions.
Gotcha. Okay, so they both have their pros and cons. IonQ, they're like the steady workhorse. Rigetti, they're like the speed demon.
Yeah.
But maybe a little less accurate. I guess we'll see who wins in the end.
Yeah, it's a race to watch for sure. But, we've talked a lot about the tech. What about the financials? Those valuations are really something.
Yeah.
But neither company's profitable. How do we square that?
Yeah. It's like, how do you put a price on potential?
Right.
They're both spending a ton of money on research and development. So I guess their valuations are based on the belief that, eventually all that's going to lead to, products and services and profits.
Yeah. It's like investing in a promising startup. You're betting they're going to, disrupt the market and make you a ton of money down the line. But there's a lot of risk. No guarantee they're going to be able to do it.
So what are some of the things that, investors should be thinking about when they're trying to assess, like, the risk and the reward of, these companies?
Well, one really crucial factor is talent. Can they attract and keep the best people? Because quantum computing, it's a very specialized field. They need the best and the brightest to, to make those breakthroughs. And they're not just competing with each other. You've got Google, IBM, Microsoft. They're all over this too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's like, how can these, smaller companies compete with those giants? Do they even have a chance?
David versus Goliath, right. But David won that battle. I think these smaller companies have a few things going for them. First of all, they're nimble. They can move quickly. They can change direction. Much easier than those big corporations.
Right. So being small can actually be a strength in this kind of, rapidly changing field.
Absolutely. And they've also got really deep expertise, like IonQ with their trapped ions, Rigetti with their superconducting qubits. This is what they do. And for those big tech companies, quantum computing is just one thing they're working on.
Yeah, they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And that's good for them. But it also means that, quantum computing might not be their top priority.
Interesting. Okay, so there's room for both, the Davids and the Goliaths.
Mm-hmm.
But what about, investors who are maybe a little hesitant to pick individual winners? Are there other ways to get exposure to this sector?
Definitely. There are these things called ETFs, exchange-traded funds. They focus on quantum computing and related technologies. They let you, buy a basket of stocks so you can spread your risk around.
Okay. So that's a good option for someone who just wants to, bet on the whole sector growing.
Exactly. You can, benefit from the rising tide.
I mean, even with that, there's still a lot of risk here, right?
Oh, yeah. Quantum computing is still in its early stages.
It's like the Wild West out there.
It really is.
But, we've talked a lot about potential and revolution, and I think it's really important that we address the potential risks too, and the ethical considerations around all of this.
You're absolutely right. It's a powerful tool. Like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or bad. One of the big concerns is cryptography. Quantum computers could break the encryption we use to protect everything. Our online communications, financial transactions, sensitive data.
Wow. That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Are there, safeguards in place to prevent that?
There are a lot of really smart people working on quantum-resistant cryptography. It's a constant arms race. But it's really important for, keeping everything secure.
So we need to develop the shield alongside the sword. I guess it's just a reminder that with any new technology, we need to be careful, but also optimistic. We need to talk about these things and work together to make sure that it's used responsibly.
We do. It's a balancing act.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Technical differences, the competitive landscape, the risks, the ethical stuff. But I think the most important question for our listeners is, how far away are we from actually seeing quantum computing being used? In the real world?
That is the question, isn't it? It's tough to say for sure.
Yeah.
But there are a few milestones we can look for that'll tell us it's really happening.
Okay, so those milestones, the ones that tell us, quantum computing is really ready for prime time. What are we looking for?
Well, one of the big ones is something called quantum supremacy, or some people call it quantum advantage, basically means showing that a quantum computer can solve a problem that a classical computer, even the most powerful ones, just can't do.
Oh, okay. Didn't Google say they already did that, though?
Yeah, they did. Back in 2019, they had this processor called Sycamore. But the problem they solved, it was very specific, kind of contrived, you could say. It was more of a proof of concept, not something that was going to be useful right away.
So it was a step forward.
Yeah.
But not the finish line. So what we're really waiting for is for them to show that they can do something that has a real impact, like in drug discovery or materials design.
Exactly.
That's when things really change.
Right. And another big thing is something called fault tolerance. Remember how we talked about noise and errors, especially with those superconducting qubits? Well, fault-tolerant quantum computers, they can correct those errors.
So they can basically proofread their own work.
Yeah, kind of. It'd make them much more reliable.
That'd be huge.
It would. It would give us a lot more confidence in the results. And it would open up all kinds of possibilities. But it's not just about the hardware. We also need software and algorithms. To use these computers.
Right. It's like having a really fast car, but nowhere to drive it.
Exactly. And right now, there aren't many people who can write code for these things.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. We need better tools and programming languages to make it easier for people to use. So
it's like a whole ecosystem that needs to be built up.
It really is.
And I guess that's where the opportunity is for investors.
For sure. The companies building the hardware, the software, the applications, that's where the potential is.
It's still risky, right?
Oh, absolutely. Very high risk, very high reward. You really got to do your research, understand the companies, the technology, the financials.
Don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've talked about the potential, the risks, the investment opportunities. But for our listeners, what does it all mean? Even if they're not going to, invest in this stuff.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that quantum computing is going to change things, whether we're invested or not.
Yeah. It's going to change how we do business, how we do research.
It could change everything. Imagine new materials with properties we can't even imagine right now. Drugs that are tailored to your DNA. No more side effects. AI that can really understand us.
It's mind-blowing.
It is.
But we got to be careful, too, like we talked about. The ethical implications.
Absolutely.
We got to make sure it's used for good.
We do, and that's where everyone comes in. Stay informed, stay curious, be part of the conversation.
Yeah. So, final thought for our listeners. The quantum future is being written right now. Stay informed, stay engaged.
This is a technology that could change the world.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into quantum computing. Thanks for listening, everyone.